And we're live.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 91 of Fans of Power. I am Joe Amato, and I'm here with my partner in crime, Tyler T. Rex Baker. What's up, T. Rex?
I'm doing just fine, man. I'm anxious to dig into this particular episode tonight, as we will soon uh, get going here. But quite excited for tonight's episode. That's my current motivation, my current mindset right now is anxious to really dig into the topics we got going for tonight. And I'll mention more about this towards the end. But I got some good updates about the mini comic Leech project that. I haven't had a whole lot to report on the last, several weeks, and I'll touch more on that towards the end of the show. But I'm very excited to get going here to begin this latest episode here.
Yeah, because like I said, we have, a few topics. Of course, we'll have a character profile. We're going to talk about some stuff from the past. But I wanted to start off first with just something I was just doing on my Facebook page, and not only my Facebook page, but there was multiple groups that I do admin work. I just wanted to do a little test of seeing what fans might be wanting to see for classics. Just to see interest. Like I said, comparing one face group to another or a Facebook group, and I asked them what would they want to see more. Here was how I phrased the question. I said, what characters would you like to see Super 7 make more of when it comes to Masters of the Universe classic style figures? And I gave options of like the 1987 movie, if they get the rights, of course. Then I mentioned vintage mini comic characters, Filmation Masters for He-Man, Filmation Princess of Power, New Adventures, MYP 2000X stuff, and I said other. Well, just one example, I put it in a group called MOTU Nation, and like I said, I haven't continued to keep promoting it. I just put it up there, but so far, out of 48 people have chose the top thing they want. They do want the rights for the Masters of the Universe movie. That's what they want to see. That's their top. So I was like, look at this. You don't see this usually everywhere. Next, under that came vintage mini comics that had 23 people. Then under that came Filmation Masters of the Universe that has 22. New Adventures came under that. That had 5. Yeah, I was just like I said. I mean, now it's not like I said. I could still promote this more because this has only been a couple days, so this hasn't been a month or two. I can leave this up longer to see, but and so far, like I said, even New Adventures is up. I mean, pretty high, which usually gets kicked in the face. Has 5 voted there, 5 voted for MYP in 2000X style figures, and then under that was Filmation Princess of Power with 3, and then under that was Other with 3. So basically, they tied. But I was like, what a vast difference that was. So that was that group in particular. And then I'll just say the other one real quick, which is the smaller group, the Ultimate group. Their top choice was they want more vintage mini comic characters. There was I think 16 people voted there. Then under that, 14 came the movie. Under that came Filmation Masters of the Universe with 12. Under that came Filmation Princess of Power with 7. Then New Adventures with 6. MYP with 5. And Other 1. But I mean, isn't that nuts? Like I said, these are just 2 groups, for examples. But look at the top 2 of what people are wanting the most to see in figure form.
Well, the top three that you're mentioning from Filmation, mini comics, and movie. I mean, me personally, and the Super 7, here's this by any chance. The movie takes priority over everything. The 87 movie is like top dog. What? However, Filmation, I want Azrog and Spydra and Dragoon and Montork and Driel and the widgets. List goes on and on. I want a sky tree would be really cool to see.
Oh, good God, that'd be insane. Oh my God,
we gotta have. I want Garn. I want black Garn, like African American Garn. I want Native American Garn. Like yes. I mean, there's a lot of mini comic stuff.
Prince Daikon. You could give us the Masters of Power Demons.
I want Prince Daikon, man. That would be so badass to be able to have a Prince Daikon and his beautiful woman with him too. I can't remember what her name was. And I don't even know if she's even given a name, to be honest. But she probably is. I don't have that part memorized. But she looks great to me. Like, it's just. And the Wizard, that's with Geldor as well. I apologize for not knowing that one either. But Prince Daikon definitely needs to be done in classics form, man.
Yeah, and also, I mean, there's the Masks of Power Demons. You could even have some of the beasts. You could have the ice. You can have their version of the Ice Hacker. You could have their version of the Manticore. I mean, there's plenty, but I just like seeing, I was like, wow, look at what led in both polls in two different groups, even though their order was different, but it was the movie rights they hoped for, then mini comics, and Filmation He-Man. Those are the top three in all those groups so far. So, like I said, it was just conducting a little poll, and I started one today basically showing 12 characters, particular characters from Filmation
And
Masters of
I'm
the Universe.
very glad to see certain people, not everybody, but certain people included Azrog in their group of 5. I'm like, you sure get a blue ribbon for that.
Yeah, because I'm not done. Of course, I'm going to continue with other 12s, and then I'll just eliminate them down. But it's, again, different to see. Look what fans are choosing in these groups. So that's
Dragoon
what
is pretty common. I was glad to see that. Like a majority of everybody,
yeah.
aside from people, are just like, none. I don't want none of these. Well,
Well,
no.
yeah, it unfortunately happens. But yeah, like in my next one, I'll be putting up other characters. I'll be putting up Malaktha. I'll put in
yeah, Malak, and I do not cannot figure out for the life of my wife. Certain people bitch complain about the idea of getting Malaktha.
I love Malaktha. I mean, he's, like I said, he's their archaeologist. He's in plenty of episodes. I mean, that's another character that is sorely needed, and especially to complete if you wanted to have from like the House of Shikoti, getting some of the main core characters.
I would love to have a Stanlin figure because most children characters are not very good, but I like Stanlin a lot, and I love to have a 2-pack of Malaktha and Stanlin. Just as a small little pack-in figure or something like that. But I hope you have intentions of doing a New Adventures.
I'm not done. I
got to see Galactic Guardians and the rest of the mutants represented in a poll. Like, I have got to see that.
Well, there's always a method to my madness. Because like I said, I'm still going to do more from Filmation He-Man. Then I'm going to hit Princess of Power. I'm hitting New Adventures. I'm hitting everything. Then after all of those are done, I'm going to start grouping them like out of these 12. And I'm going to mix some of the mini comics.
It's almost like a big tournament. You're setting up these large, small games, and then the winners of those games are coming together for the really big, tournament, so to speak. Kind of like that Toy Fair tussle back in 2001 or 2000 or something like that. Do you remember that?
I don't. No, I don't.
Oh, well, this praises just He-Man because this excited me so much when I saw that Toy Fair. For people who don't remember, Toy Fair was this monthly magazine that Wizard did. It was all about toys. Had a price guide. They did, retrospects on 80s toy lines, including He-Man. But they did this Toy Fair tussle, and they featured on a variety of websites back in, I think it was 2000, 2001. And He-Man.org, I think, ran this poll. This was eons ago, years and years ago.
Okay.
And at one point, He-Man was, they set up the brackets because once it was all over, you got to see the entire tournament if you didn't see all the websites. And He-Man went off against Captain Power in the first round, crushed him. Went against the Turtles. I voted in that particular month against the Turtles. As blasphemous as that might be to most people, but He-Man takes priority.
Okay.
They beat Turtles. Then they took on G.I. Joe and beat the Joes. And
who beat them? Transformers, probably?
It came down to He-Man and Transformers, and they did lose to Transformers.
Yeah, I would assume, yeah.
But I've still got that entire bracket and article. I saved that. And
awesome.
It was so much fun to go back and look at the brackets of all the classic 80s and 90s toy lines that were competing in this tournament. Like Transformers beat Star Wars. And it comes down to, flesh against metal. And it was just, and I like Transformers, so I was not brokenhearted about it. But it was just Joe doing that just makes me think of that incredibly kick-ass bracket tournament, the Toy Fair tussle. And I remember the promotional pictures had a wrestling ring with all these action figures from Street Fighter, He-Man, Turtle. They're all in this wrestling ring beating the hell out of each other. Oh, it was
that's pretty cool.
It's off track, but this is what I want to see Joe do. I want to see him Photoshop like this big Royal Rumble match with all of these characters fighting for a spot to like, hey, Super 7, we want to be next.
Yeah, I'll keep eliminating. Like I said, I'm going to keep knocking them down. But
it's like a Survivor Series tournament from like 1990. Like all the survivors are going into this one last match. Who will survive and go on to become classicized in Super 7s?
Yeah, back in the good old days. Real quick, one other thing. I don't think it was Toy Fair, but it might have been Wizard in particular. Because like I said, they put out both their magazines. I remember going to the store and, some of them were cellophane. You know how they used to bag those magazines to where you couldn't open a lot of them?
Yeah.
You'd pray that
crummy issues were pissed off about about it.
Exactly. And I would always pray because I didn't have the money to always be buying the magazine. I prayed somebody opened it up and I'd have it sitting out and I'd get lucky once in a while. Well, can't remember if this was the case, but I remember they voted the most powerful weapons in all of comic or, fiction history. And what amazed me was the Power Sword, He-Man's Power Sword, came in at number 2, only behind the Green Lantern's ring. I was shocked. I was like, wow. I mean, I couldn't believe that He-Man's sword came in at number 2 out of everything they could think of. So that's kind of weird. You wonder, I didn't follow the issues before that. I don't know if that was a monthly thing, who came up with this, but it was kind of see. I was like, hey, He-Man got some, representation. And that's at a time when, He-Man was still not really even being talked about. I couldn't even remember if the new cartoon, the MYP cartoon, was out at the time.
And that's what made getting magazines like Wizard and Toy Fair, and they would mention He-Man, that much bigger of a deal because, because I remember getting like when Mattel announced that they were going to do the commemorative figures. There was no new cartoon. This was probably a couple years before, and it was a big deal to see them do a big article about He-Man and the commemorative figures with this nice little diorama set with the characters that were going to be released, and the articles praising the figures and talking about what can we expect from the commemorative line, and it was just. It was a big deal to see a big article, that went over like 2, 3, 4 pages talking about He-Man in a current day magazine. And I would pick up magazines a lot at Barnes and Noble, Books and Me, and they had anything about He-Man, I would pick it up, even if it was a small article or picture. I'd pick it up. And
because when you're getting nothing, that's what I mean. When you're getting nothing, you loved it. That's why I think I love Toy Fair so much. Toy Fair always like taking like action figures and making a goofy little story at the back of the magazine or something.
It was like that Twisted Toy Fair Theater, and they used one of the Mego figures, and they did two featuring He-Man characters, and they were not making fun of He-Man, but they did do a fun thing of Spider-Man telling Skeletor, He-Man and Prince Adam are the same guy,
Oh, okay.
And it shows like Skeletor like kind of stopping to think, and the little eyebrows, like Play-Doh eyebrows, like show emotion. He just takes a broadsword, knocks on Castle Grayskull, and impales Prince Adam right there on the spot.
Yeah, I like that stuff. I liked it. And they would.
Humor I'm not a fan of, but I thought that was a pretty cute comic strip.
Sometimes it was just a panel. Sometimes it would just be one little square panel somewhere in the back of the magazine. Might even been around the price guide, and they would just have maybe Skeletor there with Darth Vader.
They did a lot of the price guide too. I remember they did a lot of those pictures like that in the price guide.
Yeah, they would say something like they might have Skeletor saying some insult to Darth Vader, or like they were like trying to be buddies or chummy. But that was pretty cool. That was just kind of spur of the moment, talk about the mold things. But that was cool. Now, one of the topics I guess we're going to talk about also is, you're starting to see on TV, it's always the back to school stuff for kids. It's that time, getting close to that time for them to start getting their stuff, their backpacks, everything. And you're seeing the commercials. You're seeing the kids wearing their Superman stuff, like a T-shirt. I think you might even seen this one commercial. They show the actual superheroes. You see Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, Power Rangers. And then when it goes past one panel, it's kids all wearing T-shirts, which makes me think, of course, what we had growing up, which, again, that's why we really would love, I guess, sure, we always say the Masters of the Universe movie or cartoon, maybe it wouldn't be as amazing if they make one now. I really hope they would make one and it would be good because, again...
No, it would probably suck.
It might. Exactly. I like pushing because, again, I would hope that it would be enough to create a new generation of fans because, man, I think all that cool stuff we had, I remember, going to school, not only having the lunch boxes, which we'll get to in a bit, but, you'd have... your pens, you had pencils, they had the portfolio folders, which I wore into the ground. I mean, I used that so much that I don't have that. The reason I don't have that is because it just deteriorated because I try to use it every year until it was just done. They had rulers, they had markers, but I would just like to see it again. Because here, just for example, like here are some things. Now, some of these are ones that, like these are ones that, this one I got off of eBay. This is the good old metal lunchbox. I mean, again, you got this one too, because I know what I'm gonna get to eventually. You got the same one. There you go.
This is my personal favorite. Is it because Robato's on it with the land shark? So this is that's a personal favorite of the three that were released. That was a personal favorite.
No, it was a good one. Then there's this one that had the evil horde and had that kind of sticker, which was cool, which is unique art. Then there was this one that has Stratos and Evil Lyn and Trapjaw, and which was cool. But now it's time to get to my favorite. This next one, this is the one This is the one that I took to school every day. This has to be my favorite, just because I had this for years that I take to school. I mean, I think I stopped taking it when I got to maybe junior high because maybe it wasn't cool to have metal lunch boxes or lunch boxes. You had to start using paper bags. But I can guarantee you, all through grade school, I, I took this every day. And you know what's funny is, you know how we're always talking about how the art is such an impact of Masters of the Universe too. I mean, I would sit there and stare at this image of this battle with Skeletor, Beastman, He-Man, and just as I'm sitting there eating lunch, I'm just staring at this the whole time, just envisioning a story. Like, you know, I'm trying to create an epic story, and I felt like so proud, like, you know, I'm the cool kid. I made sure I had it sitting so everybody could kind of see it, but I don't. Was now the one you showed me, yours? Is that the one that you took to school? Did you have a childhood one that you always took, or what?
The one you're holding right there was my first time ever seeing a He-Man lunchbox. Yeah, that one.
Yeah,
By,
god dang.
by the time I got to elementary school, it was 1989, the tail end of the 80s, and you know, the new Adventures of He-Man tournament would be coming out then, and nobody from kindergarten to first grade carried anything He-Man related. Greg Cobbs brought it in second grade. And for years, like I said, I was so hungry for He-Man stuff. I knew there had to be a He-Man lunchbox among so many other things. And I forgot what day it was. I think it wasn't all the time, but I remember he brought it in. And when we came into class, you had to set a lot of your lunch, like your stuff up on this kind of counter table. And I remember seeing that and sitting at my desk and just kind of go into trance seeing, because I had never seen him in lunchbox. And it was one of those things where, and I got tons of stories of we're seeing other kids with He-Man stuff, you know, from daycare into elementary school.
You weren't a thief, but you wanted to steal that lunchbox, didn't you? Admit it.
I
You probably
desperately did, because I can't remember what lunchbox I was carrying that year, but it was the one that you were holding, which I have now. And
yeah.
just remember sitting at it from afar, I'm thinking, he probably don't even like He-Man. I bet it's his brothers. I bet,
right.
I bet he's used older brother's lunchbox here to take his lunch to school. He probably doesn't even want it. And you always worry. And oddly enough, the same kid, Greg Cobbs, I was sitting at my desk drawing Clawful one day. I just was trying to draw, you know, the muscular anatomy. You know, I was really big into comic books, but He-Man still was my number one thing. I was still into in second grade. This is like 1992.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm drawing Clawful, and he comes by and goes, "Hey, what are those? Those titties? Hey, everybody, Tyler's drawing titties over here." And I was drawing pectoral muscles, but he was yelling out, "Titties!"
Titties.
I remember sitting at my desk just like, oh my God, I can't believe he's doing this right now.
Did the teacher come over and look and see what you were doing?
No, it wasn't so loud to where Miss Simpkins, because she was a scary looking woman anyway. She made me stay in class for not coloring my clouds properly or something like that. And a drawing of her we had to do for Halloween. Bunch of BS. Anyway, it wasn't that troublesome, but it was just. And Greg would do this again throughout elementary school at various periods, where he would start giggling and laughing like obnoxiously about something that's like, you know, there's nothing wrong here. But I'll never forget that, being afraid people thought I was drawing, you know, boobs on a Clawful character. Of course, no one in there would have known it was Clawful, but that's what I was trying to draw.
And that's when you should have knocked him out and stole his lunchbox.
Memory, but I'm sure it makes for a great story to tell. Like that's
no, that is yeah, because you know, my art, you know, me drawing is just terrible. I mean, when I was younger, I used to try to just draw He-Man figures all the time. It wasn't based off the cartoon. I always looked at my action figures. So everything I did was in that same pose, looking straight ahead like this, or maybe an arm up, because I knew nothing of perspective, like a fist coming at you like this. I couldn't do angles. It's always just standing. And I still, they're not around me now. They're in another room. Maybe next week I could show, but I still have those big drawings I did. I would do them like sometimes when we had art class, we'd have big manila construction paper that we would draw on and color in. And I still have them. I always drew these weird creatures. It was never actually He-Man or Skeletor. It was just something in that body design. And I kind of was obsessed with just monsters. And I drew this one thing. I remember this one big sea creature. He had a big upper body, and his lower body was kind of like some kind of tail with some like spikes on it. And I had like a guy he somehow was like rowing a boat. And this one picture told a story of like he came through a warp hole or some time portal, and he came to somewhere he didn't understand, and he was like, "Is this the Twilight Zone?" It was just so corny, but I still have that. I still have a lot of my drawings of that, and the only other thing isn't it? It's obvious, but we draw Friday the 13th stuff, and I drew this Jason bear. I had Jason as a bear, and he decapitated somebody and is holding this bloody head. And you would think that it's pretty sick, like a teacher would think, Joe, why are you drawing decapitated things and blood? And, women have to contact your parents. But, she knew, the things I liked and didn't see it sadistically. But yeah, it's weird. The things in school, it's just, the only things I've ever kept or were able to keep, like I said, beyond this lunchbox and a couple of those little erasers was I remember using this all the time. And that's the Grayskull pencil sharpener. So I love taking my pencils and just I love this. So I kept that, kept the lunch boxes and a couple of the character erasers. I took those to school, and one time I started doing a little racing, but I was like, I don't want to wreck this. I don't think that's the purpose of this. It's the rubber eraser figures, but I don't think they were meant to be actual erasure with your work. But I did have that one. It was like the image of He-Man that's used almost for all merchandise, where he's standing there, has the shield. If you've seen it, well, that one was an actual eraser. I used that and a couple of pencils. But now the books, I didn't get to see a lot of the storybooks in my school library.
Oh boy!
Now I know, like I said, you brought up stories. Like me, I remember getting them at the stores, but you must have had a blast. What is your story about these books?
Yeah, this didn't happen till 5th grade. So this would have been 1994, I think, or 94, I think. Anyway, our library for most part, we always had library time in elementary school. Like it was a particular day of the week, we'd go upstairs to the library and check out. And there was one side of the library that most of the kids just never ventured. It was just one big room, and books. Like a lot of the children's books were along the window on these lower shelves where they had like Return of the Jedi, like Battle for Endor, and Pinocchio and stuff.
Right.
I just wandered over to the adult section, which really was not really adult, but in my eyes, so this is where the older kids would check out books.
All right.
And just kind of looking around, and I just see this kind of weird color, like a cream color, like hardcover, bookend.
Okay.
With no title on it. And for some reason, I just kind of glanced at that and just kind of pulled it out, and it was the Rock Warriors.
No way.
And I like I said, never even heard that there was a Rock Warriors book, let alone see that it's still in my elementary school library.
Uh-huh.
And I could not believe it. I was like, oh my God.
You wanted to check it out and probably have it at your house all the time, huh?
And it got to where I found Rock Warriors, and I looked around, I found Secret of the Dragon's Egg. I looked around more, I found the Magic Mirrors. I looked around much later on at a different date that year and found the Sword of She-Ra.
Wow.
And it was, I could not believe it. And that's where I saw Goatman for the first time, was checking out Secret of the Dragon's Egg.
Okay.
The Magic Mirrors had the big epic fight scene with Clawful and Cobra Khan and Whiplash and Fisto and so on. And I was just checking him out all the time. Oh, again and again and again and again. And then it got where I would be so desperate, and I didn't want the other kids to see that I was checking out He-Man books. I remember one particular time, we had like some downtime in class, and I requested to walk to the library to go, and I went, took my backpack, or maybe I didn't know, I know because I couldn't do that. Anyway, I went to the library to check out the Magic Mirrors with nobody else around, and I'd been doing it for a while, but I got to that point where I'm like, Greg is going to make fun of me for this, or Brent Farley, he was like this little short, shrimp guy that just loved to mouth off. You could have just smacked him, but, you get in trouble for that kind of stuff.
So these two annoying guys.
To avoid anybody seeing this and, going back and checking. And I did this religiously throughout 5th grade once I realized that there were, these 4 or 5 different He-Man books to check out in there. And that same year, I was talking to some of my other classmates. One other guy was in my class, and the guy that was a grade below me about He-Man toys. And one guy had like the He-Man 3D wall plaque, which I still have to this day.
Yeah.
He said he didn't want it anymore. And I think I traded him something current, like a current toy for it. He brought it to school, and we had to like sneak the bag to like the closet where our coats and backpacks were at, because I didn't want people to see me getting this He-Man
You know what's funny? Hold on, hold on. I can picture this. Everybody's seeing Tyler always disappearing wherever he's going, and of course you're going to the library to get books. They see you sneaking into a closet, wondering what you're doing. They probably thought, "Is this guy doing drug deals?" And all Tyler is doing is sneaking out books that he's reading.
I
He's
think
like,
that's why it was called. It was like
you're
being
like,
caught in the spotlight. You know, it was.
to me,
But
you're like
that's what
this.
it
You're like,
was. Like by that
here
point,
you go, man.
kids in my grade were collecting baseball cards and sport cards, and you know, I'm still into He-Man in fifth grade, along with occasionally watching Power Rangers, but to kind of getting out of that the same year. But I'm into comic books and superheroes, and wasn't a whole lot of people in my school that were into that stuff. So you just kind of were made to feel like if you were caught with anything, toy related or action figures, you're considered a dork. And
No, I know.
making deals with Andrew Mason. He was a grade below me, but he had the same math class, and he told me he had some He-Man figures that his brother didn't want anymore and that he had, and he was describing them to me. I'm like, I'll trade you my Predator clan leader for which was at the time, I didn't know it, but the elephant guy, Snout Spout, and he brought Zodak, and I got Zodak and Snout Spout for the Kenner Toys Predator clan leader in fifth grade. Like I'm making these deals with people and stuff like that, and that was some stories from fifth grade, and I got so many like He-Man related stories from school. A lot of them were seeing like toys that I had never seen before. Like I saw the sorceress in daycare. One of the girls in my daycare class had the sorceress. I'm like, far like always, because I'm always afraid to approach people. Where did you get that? It was just.
It's insane when you're talking about those memories, because I had to pay a girl for puffy. I think it was puffy stickers.
The Rice Krispie Puffy stickers?
Yes, exactly. Because that's the thing. I hated Rice Krispies. We did not get Rice Krispies in our house. It was, to me, the just grossest, nastiest, bland cereal. The time I'd ever had it, I remember I would take sugar and just pour sugar over and over. It's like, nothing helps this. So she came in one day, and she had these. I was like, those He-Man stickers? She said, yeah. I was like, where'd you get them? She's like, I got them in Rice Krispies. I was like, huh? I was like, can I have them? She was like, you give me some money. I was like, you're gonna make me pay it, because we're supposed to be good, good friends and everything. She was like, yeah. So I always had to get her, like 50 cents for each little sticker she would find, because she said there's supposed to be more, supposed to be more. So she was my pusher for stickers, for the puffy stickers and the Rice Krispies. So I became obsessed. I'm wanting, to know more. I'd go to the store then, see what other things had this, what other things had it, because I think there was other cereals, and then I think, yeah, it was Nestle Quick, because I still have the Nestle Quick can. That's when they had their stickers that, of course, you open it, you could win, the entire collection. But otherwise, they had those cool stickers inside the can of Nestle Quick. So there was a lot of promotions. But yeah, that's how I found out about the puffy stickers, was from her just bringing them in randomly and me having to pay for it. I was like, you couldn't even give me them stickers. I was like, if she was a guy, I might have had to hit her. But, no, I ain't going to hit a girl.
But it's cool. And it makes you wonder, like, what other people made deals with classmates to get He-Man stuff or Ninja Turtles, G.I. Joe, because it was just always, it was like the story of my life. I would, from daycare to elementary school, I would see kids with action figures that I had never seen before. Like I remember sitting in it when we brought into daycare before you went to your classroom, you sat in this big den room and watched Lassie on this big wooden box TV and Mr. Wizard and anything was on Nickelodeon. And a guy I still see on occasion to this day had Night Stalker and Jitsu playing with them in the floor. And I was like, that's that cool Asian guy with the hand. He's got a horse. I'm 3 years old, 3 years just sitting from afar watching him play with these cool toys and just.
That is crazy.
And come, making this full circle here. Come first grade, I'm at a PTO meeting with my mom. And I see Ben's younger brother, Dusty, playing with those same Jitsu and Night Stalker 2-pack in this chair. I'm thinking, I better just go over there and ask that kid if I can just have those toys, because I'm older and he may just give them to me. And I remember eyeballing him as we're all the parents and the kids are getting up and leaving. I'm just like, where's Dusty at? I gotta get that horse and the cool Asian guy.
Did you punk him? Did you go up and you did that thing?
No, I lost him in the crowd. Plus, he was with his mom too, so it was just one of those things. Like, how the hell am I going to accomplish this? I didn't have like an Ocean's 11 scheme where I get some of my classmates and we set big that and
Real quick, I want to give
Go ahead.
quickly in the chat room. Want to give a shout out to Walter Grayskull, Captain Chronic, and JSP. They're in the chat room right now. Yeah,
guys.
So glad to have you here. Finally, like I said, if you have some questions you might do, we'll try to get to that. Apologize, we were just on a roll here. I just noticed though the chat room, so I had to click that on and make sure. So appreciate you being here.
But I want to ask you real quick too, while we're on the subject of school, because did you have any of the He-Man pencils by chance?
Yeah, so I said I wore my pencils out. I mean, the pencils, none of those.
So the pencils I'm talking about was like the gold-colored He-Man pencil,
and they had images like their face or their body.
Like He-Man was holding a battle axe. Skeletor was holding his sword like below the palms of his hands.
Yeah, this, like I said, this pencil sharpener, it sharpened the piss out of them. Yeah, they were just none of them lasted. Just this lasted, and I actually kept the case for my marker. Yeah, and I kept the case for my.
I did not use mine.
Oh no! Well, my figure marker pen of He-Man, that at least I kept the box for. So this is another childhood one, but I didn't take to school because it was kind of like an action figure, and I was afraid somebody would take it. I was paranoid of this. Plus, it looks like a toy, and if you had a toy and you were in class, the teacher took it. So I was like, no, I'll never take that. Like I had explained to her about this. She thought I was bringing in a toy with Grayskull. It's like, no, it's a pencil sharpener, and she had to see it in action to understand. And so I was lucky enough to have this because I did imagine that I was playing. Sure enough, with Castle Grayskull, it had like a little miniature piece of paper. Imagine He-Man's going in there. You're doing anything. You're desperate as a kid. I'm trying to play with this like it's a toy. But it's funny when you're talking about figures and stuff. This one, it's not really pertaining to in school, but there was a classmate that I had that he loved G.I. Joe to death. I mean, this kid had every figure. He was like the rich kid in the neighborhood. When something came out, he had it all and then some. Like I even think he had doubles. Well, when Hordak came out and all the Horde and everything, Hordak was the one figure I couldn't find at the store. Could not find him. I just didn't have luck. And then when I went back, he was always gone. So I figured I'd never get him. Well, I went over to my buddy's one time, and he's playing with his G.I. Joes, and he had a Hordak. I said, "You got a Hordak?" I said, "I didn't think you collected He-Man." He was like, "Well, my brother gave him to me." I was like, "Do you want him?" And he was like, "Not really." And I was like, "Can I have him?" He's like, he said, "I could trade you." And this is what's bizarre. He didn't collect He-Man. He had tons of G.I. Joe. I still don't know if this was like for his sister because he never had a single Princess of Power figure in his whole house. He said, "I'll trade you if you can find me She-Ra." I was like, "Okay." Now, I didn't have any Princess of Power. But my girlfriend, this was terrible. This was rotten. I'm not a thief. This is something I felt bad for. And, of course, years later, I told her this story. So, well, here's the thing. She'd come over and she'd bring her Princess of Power and figures over and play, with me, with He-Man and all that stuff. And, well, one day I said, "Could you leave She-Ra so I could play with She-Ra with He-Man?" She's like, "Okay." So she left it. The next day I took that She-Ra and I went and traded it to that kid and got Hordak. And the day after that, she came over and she's like, "Okay." She's like, "Yeah, my She-Ra." I was like, "I thought you have her." She's like, "No, I don't have her." I was like, "I put her in your screen door. I came over, I opened the screen door, put her on the middle part and shut it." I was like, "It wasn't there." She's like, "No." I said, "Oh my God, somebody must have stole it." And it broke her heart. And she had all these other figures. I felt terrible. That was a young kid. I was desperate till I needed Hordak. Well, I told her the story years later, as like I said, we got about around 2021 to where I figured, okay, she'll be cool about it. She's like, "You stole from me?" She said, "You stole." She's freaking out and laughing. And she's like, "You're breaking my heart. It's terrible." I felt so horrible.
Joe wears the mask because this woman dismantled his face. He's come up with this whole gimmick of I wear the mask to make me look cool and I stand out here, guys.
She actually threw boric acid
the hell out of him over that in a back alley, and he went and saw this a doctor that's been fired, kind of like the doctor in the back alley, Batman 1989.
Exactly. I was
Joe's face, and Joe's like, "Mayor."
And well, anyway,
he comes in and puts on his mask, and
that's how it started. That's why the smile. But
so I felt all through school, little Joe Amato's walking around, or no, as an adult. No, I take that back. That's what Joe goes to the grocery store wearing the mask. He goes to the bank, flirts with girls at the bank wearing the mask. It's all about the mask. The mask.
It's all about the mask. So years later, I did find her another one and to give it back to her. So I found one, bought one.
No.
Wait, what's that?
She probably like took all your facial parts, your nose, your ears. Like, all right, I'll give you the nose back. I'll trade you your nose for our brand new She-Ra
For
figure.
the new She-Ra. So I made good on that. So yes, that whole school story
I tell
of
you, and
that
I
kid.
love girls since daycare. I never once pulled a stunt like that on any girl that I had it planned for.
Well,
No, 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 no. I respected women too much even back then to do something like that. You,
I was
sir, are the
I am
scum of
scum.
the.
I am the scum of the earth. You're right. It was desperation, man. I needed that figure. I needed it. So that's how I got my Hordak, and I still have that. I don't consider it really stolen. I traded for it, and I made good for it years later. So it's kind of like I bought it.
Well, of course, Costanza says it's not a lie if you believe it, and that's what you're
Right.
doing right now.
I'm trying to make good by it. So yeah, so that's that. But yeah, man, see all these fun stories. This is what I hope again maybe could happen for a new generation.
To promote this, you need to do like something from back to school, like with Rodney Dangerfield and Sam Kinison, with like a He-Man lunchbox and a scene from one of those movies or something like it. We go back to school with Masters of the Universe, or something.
Yeah, I got to do something. Yeah, something crazy. So hopefully, again, like I said, a new generation can have that because I mean, like I said, they have Turtles, they have Transformers, they have all the DC, Marvel
Yeah,
stuff. They're having a blast.
They have phase Transformers. They don't have, it's like I haven't looked. Of course, the idea, even when I see back to school commercials to this day, it's nauseating because I used to get so scared and freaked out. Like, great, it's right around the corner. But the only cool thing you got out of it was when you went to your local department store, and like I get to pick up my new folders and some new T-shirts with some cool stuff on it, and lunchbox and all that stuff. But I can't imagine. Maybe they have that same kind of magic that we do when they buy like.
I think, like I said, I'm sure they do. No, I'm sure they do. Like I said, because that's their stuff. They don't know, like I said,
we look back at the variety of stuff that I mean, and I mean, it was like today it's only like maybe 2 or 3 really popular toy lines. The rest of it's just kind of like, I don't know. I mean, back then you're looking, not only you have He-Man school supplies, you've got Transformers, you got Thundercats, you got G.I. Joe, you got Silverhawks, you've got I mean, your Brave Star lunchboxes and stuff like that. You've got probably Visionaries, maybe even Dino Riders and Bionic Six. You just feel like there was such a wide variety, even with school supplies and clothing, of what young boys could pick out and say that represents me this year for school. I want the Brave Star lunchbox. I want the Evil Horde lunchbox with He-Man. That's what I want this year for 3rd grade. That says me.
Yeah, I mean, they have, like I said, their versions of stuff.
Some kid in the same elementary school, maybe 2-3 years younger than me, was walking. His parents dropped him off. He was wearing the He-Man versus Triclops raincoat. What the hell is that?
Yeah,
I never seen that before.
Exactly. Yeah. They had
Battle-Cat raincoat. My mom gave it away, and she does regret that to this day.
Yep, they had those. They had boots. They had shoes. I mean, there was gloves, mittens. I mean, whatever you want to call them. There was a lot of stuff. So you can represent back then. One more person, real quick. Chris Paulson. He's in the chat room. So thank you for joining us.
Good to see you. Hadn't seen Chris in a while.
Yeah, good to see him and everybody else that's in there right now. So, like I said, we have a little chat room, a little full chat room right now, people. But no, so that's, like I said, that's all of that. The stuff from back the school days for Masters of the Universe.
I still got more stories to share from school. I have not shared. So we can always do a thing with people like this.
Definitely. But before we hit our character profile of Mantenna, that's gonna be our character profile. Wanted to mention about. I think it was Captain Chronic. I think it was in the chat room last week who asked us about video games. Did we have any of the video games back then? What were our thoughts on them? Well, I remember having for Intellivision and Atari, I had the Masters of the Universe game, and not saying because of limitations of graphics, because back then that was our graphics. So that's what we had. We didn't sit there and say, oh, this looks bad, this is horrible, but it was just, I didn't enjoy that game. I remember being so let down. It felt so it just wasn't entertaining. You're in the Wind Raider, you're dropping. I don't even know what in God's name you're doing. Then you get to a level where you're trying to like deflect blasts from Skeletor and move back and forth, back and forth. Then you engage in a quick battle with them and you go past. But it was just so repetitive, wasn't entertaining. Those were the only ones for that. And then you can fast forward years later, even though I know there was stuff on some of the other computer systems and then stuff from, even the UK and other countries. I know that there was other games. But when you fast forward, I played the one for the Game Boy, I think it was Game Boy Advance. And that was based off of, the MYP cartoon. And I told you, I had no trouble playing that, even though like everybody who reviewed the game in the magazine said it's unplayable, it's clunky, you can't play it, it's horrible. I loved that game. I actually thought it was really good, and I could play it fine. Went through, beat that. I remember being super excited, waiting for the PlayStation 2 version. I think it was PlayStation 2 was going to have.
Yeah.
Yep, and dang it, of course, that's when Masters of the Universe it went off the air, and there went the toys. You know, it was a bad timing, and they didn't bring it here, but they kept it in the UK. And it was a 3D one. It looked fun. Sure, some people could complain again about maybe clunkiness or controls, but I would have loved to have played it because I felt like we always got the short end of the stick. Like Masters of the Universe, its timing just sucked when it came to video games. Like back in the day of Nintendo and Sega Master System, just as those were kind of coming out and becoming hot and popular, that's when He-Man was slowly starting to fade and eventually went away. So they never got a video game. I wish that, man, if those systems could have came out maybe a year or two earlier, or if Masters of the Universe could have lasted a couple more years, we could have had a good version, a good side-scrolling action adventure for Nintendo Entertainment System or Sega Master System. But we didn't get it. I feel like He-Man's been cursed with bad timing in games. But what about you in games in Masters of the Universe?
Uh, I had always wondered at a young age if there had ever been any He-Man games, but I never played any of the the older like the Atari stuff and all the other ones you mentioned. And I eventually was aware that they made one based on the live action movie, and I think there was. I remember picking up some old comic books. I think it may have been even the 3-part miniseries that DC had done, and I think an old it was either one of those or one of those where there was an advertisement for a He-Man video game, which I was like, wow, that's really cool. I mean, like that they had a He-Man video game back then. I'm looking through the pictures of the graphics. I'm like, doesn't matter. It was a He-Man, video game. I would love to have been around at that time and old enough to have played that. But I was very excited about the PlayStation 2 game when it was announced, and
Yeah.
I could not figure out why the hell have we not gotten this game. And I never did figure out honestly until because I never really dug deep about it. I'm sure people were posting all over the place, but honestly, until you had said that the UK, I thought it hadn't been released at all. It was just one of those games that it's coming down the pipeline. I saw screenshots of it. I'm like, can't wait to play this. I've got a PlayStation 2 and I'm a PlayStation guy, and never happened. But my brother did get a Game Boy Advance for I think his birthday or Christmas. And knowing that he finally had gotten one, I went to KB Toys at Valley View Mall and picked up the He-Man game. And I didn't beat it, but I enjoyed playing. It got to one point where I couldn't figure out what the hell am I supposed to do. I forgot how many stages it was. And I was glad to get the little mini comic that came with that Emiliano drew.
Yeah, that was like a little 4-page thing, but that was cool.
Yeah. Clawful, because I think Clawful's the first villain you fought in that game, and I think that's what the mini comic illustrates is the Skeleton Warriors and Clawful and stuff like that. So it was a fun little game. It's certainly just because I couldn't bid doesn't mean I didn't enjoy playing it. So it was. But it's not the only game that I feel like has been shortchanged. I mean, Thundercats has never got a great game.
Well, G.I. Joe. Again, I think everything just cursed at that time perfectly. Like Transformers was released Nintendo in Japan, but not here. But it was like when Nintendo came out. That's Nintendo and Sega. I mean, I know Sega wasn't as popular as Nintendo, but I mean, still the Master System. I mean, it was a fantastic system. But video games, when they started coming out, it seemed like that was the end of some of the great '80s cartoons. Transformers, G.I. Joe, Thundercats, Masters of the Universe, Turtles was just becoming hot and trailblazed into the '90s, so they were lucky enough to get video game representation. There was like Thundercats was going to be made on some of those computer video game side-scrolling systems. I think it might have made it to some systems. I didn't have all those computer video game systems. I had all the whatever you want to call video game home systems for the TV. But Thundercats did, I think, get some representation. And I couldn't remember if it was a weird translation of another type game to become Lionel, like it really wasn't originally going to be Thundercats. It was some other thing. I could be absolutely wrong on everything, but I seen it.
Well, G.I. Joe did get 2 Nintendo games. They did get that.
Okay, well, lucky enough. Well, that's good that they got them. I never got to play them, but Thundercats, like I said, they were cursed at the time. Same thing as Masters of the Universe. And Transformers didn't get it here either, but they got it in Japan, and of course that just blew up in Japan and then came back here. So Transformers has always kind of been around in some capacity, but Masters just has this horrible curse of not getting a game when things are hot, if you will. That's all I can hope is, wow, if
Well,
we did get
I feel like it's not as heartbreaking because of all the stuff that did come out that was He-Man related. I mean, with
But there's game players that really, really wanted a
well, I
great
mean,
Nintendo or
but
a
I
Master
look at it
System.
as like I would like to think that somebody with intelligence and genuine appreciation for He-Man, not just oh hey cool man, it's one of them '80s toy lines, man, rock on, love the '80s, man, cool stuff, and makes this lazy ass game because they've got the rights to it or something like that. Now I still carry a flag because the only thing I really want to see is a side scroll beat 'em up.
That would be
With
great. I mean, that's a
and
no-brainer.
that's all I'm interested in. Like I'm not really into role playing games like RPGs and stuff like that. I can't. I don't play video games that much anymore. If you give me a Super Nintendo or a Sega or a regular Nintendo or an arcade machine, you got my attention. I'm not interested in playing current stuff, so it would have to be something where I would have to make arrangements. Okay, if we get a side scroll He-Man beat 'em up, I will make sure that I get a PlayStation 4 or whatever they're up to right now, maybe PlayStation 5 or something like that, or buy it and then go see my brother and play with him or something like that. Or now he's got an Xbox. Hell,
Well, it's only hoping, like I said,
that's the only kind of game that I'm really because that's what I still love to play. When I go to the arcade, I want to play Turtles in Time. I want to play the Spider-Man and the X-Men arcade games. I want to play Mortal Kombat. I'm more about fighting and stuff like that than going through and I know that kind of style of game is tremendously popular, especially in this day and age. But
that's what I mean. Retro is new. Everybody, like I said, is into a lot of the retro side-scrolling beat 'em ups.
Yeah,
or just
something that looks like Final Fight would be that would be my that would make me want to ensure that okay, I'll either make sure I get it in some miracle or ask for it for Christmas, a game station or PlayStation or whatever that would allow me to play a side scroll beat 'em up He-Man game. So
someday, like I said, let's hope.
Hell, I'd love to have a T-shirt that looks like Final Fight with He-Man and Manny Faces and Cyclone going down the streets of Eternia and beating up random villain warriors, and you got Beastman down at the end of the street, just like the dreadlock guy holding some beautiful girl hostage or something like that, like in Final Fight.
You really are thinking of Final Fight. Yeah, I was going to say.
I love Final Fight. It's a perfect game, and I would love to see a He-Man like a T-shirt graphic with the characters drawn just like Capcom characters, and Beastman is the guy that comes bursting out, or that you've seen a lot of the ads. Like it was always that big guy with the blonde dreadlocks, that you see.
Like I said, I think it's an independent video game creator. They made that side-scrolling fighting beat 'em up Masters Universe game. It's independent. It's by, I think they call them Mugen, Mugen. I think they're the ones that do it.
Is that the one that's got like He-Man and the Sorceress and She-Ra and Man-at-Arms?
Well, you know what? I'm not sure if it's that one because there's that one that looks like the Filmation style side-scrolling, but then there's this fighting one. I think it's just a one-on-one fighting. I don't know if they side-scroll, but a one-on-one fighting, and that's by Mugen. And I think they even put in like Lion-O to fight. You remember, it's the one you're playing at the arcade. I think it's that one.
Oh, by Lion-O. By Amato Brothers.
Yeah, by the Amato Brothers. But yeah, so there. I mean, Captain Chronic. I hope we kind of like answer your question there, at least on the video game. So
I didn't have a whole lot of backstory, but I've looked at footage of it. And I'm like, well, it looks cool. I mean, it's 80s stuff. I mean, I'm cool with that. And not one of those guys just like, man, this is stupid, man. I was like, how do they play this? And I was like, no, I'm a purist at heart. I like to romanticize with like what it would have been like to have woken up Christmas morning and gotten the '87 video game to play. Along with my Blade and Sword and Gwildor that I would have gotten that year. Of course, '87 was a fantastic Christmas for me. Anyway, it was He-Man and Ghostbusters related, but it's a great simple charm to a lot of those games. There's nothing to them. Of course, there wasn't a whole lot to most of those games back then, so you really can't.
Well, like I said, for me, like I said, it was never graphics. because whatever graphics you had for most of the systems, that's what basically they were
All
for
you
that
had to do
time.
was slap the He-Man Chrome logo on a box, and you just sold me.
Oh, and that's what happened. That's what happened with the Atari and television. I had both systems, and it was the same exact game, but I still had to get it because it said He-Man. So I bought the same game twice, but one had slightly better graphics, than the other. But you were used to the graphics of whatever system. As years went on, of course, you can start seeing how some things can look better and better. I mean, it's just like the game that some people say is one of the worst games in history, E.T. for the Atari. I actually enjoyed that game. I could play it. It was playable. I remember taking that little neck, you phone low, you get up and you had to phone home. You had to avoid the guy that was chasing you. I don't know if he was Keys or whoever it was. Some guy was chasing you, but I enjoyed it. I didn't have a problem with playing ET. It's what you had. It's what was there. But yeah, that was pretty much a bomb and a stinker and got buried along with other games. I mean, we won't get into that discussion because that's not what this podcast is. But it wasn't just ET that was buried in that desert. It was tons of other Atari games. So it wasn't ET that killed it. Just they had a documentary on the whole thing. They even dug up to where that stuff was, and you've seen it was just tons of games. But well, that's the end of the video game discussion. So now I'll let you transition into our final topic of our character profile.
To this wonderful character here.
Oh, I didn't know you had a nice case. Jesus.
Yeah, I got this from Zolo World. A little plug for Zolo World, where they sell these $5 plastic cases specifically meant for He-Man figures, like men on card, and those figures as well.
Any dents, creases on that? That looks like it's really good shape.
I got this from I bought this when I was in high school from a toy store. I think it was in California, and they were selling. It was an ad I saw in the magazine, and they were selling a lot of their He-Man stuff. A lot, it was on pretty like discount or something, and the guy told me there was a crack on the bubble, and there's a small crack on this side here. But overall, the card is slightly curved. But it looks exactly the same as when I got it in the mail from that store.
And I bet you got it dirt cheap. Back then, when you were in high school, that must have been nice prices.
Well, yeah. Well, not to mention this stuff. I got this and Battle Bones and Whiplash from the same company. Like, I mean, pretty dirt cheap, and along with, I mean, this was at that time where any ad that was saying they were selling He-Man toys. I mean, I was getting Clamp Champ for $20. I got Mosquito for $20. The Horde Trooper men on card, keep in mind too.
Oh wow!
So I was in high school buying these men on card figures from these stores, and when toy magazines were in abundance back then. I mean, from like newspaper kind of like Toy Shop and Toy Fair and Lee's Toy Review all had ads for He-Man toys. So, but
good deal.
This is yeah. So I still have this and a bunch of others on my wall over here. But anyway, Mantenna, the evil spy with pop-out eyes, is who we're talking about today. And it's like most people know, it's hard. There's not a He-Man character I heavily dislike. When I say heavily dislike, I'm talking referencing Man-at-Arms and Tila. But Mantenna is, I mean, he's a biggest staple of Master Universe lore as Hordak is. Like when you think Hordak, you think, I mean, it's I'd ask any fan, you get asked to name 2 Horde members besides Hordak, and I'd say most likely that those people are going to say at least Mantenna, Leech, or Grizzlor.
Yeah.
One of 2 of those 3 are going to get mentioned. It's just and
in my opinion, Mantenna also the most underrated Horde member, but we'll get to that later. At least in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree so too. But fortunately enough, the character has been utilized quite a bit, but not in the sense that you feel like the character has seen his full potential. It's he was featured in some of the mini comics, but didn't have anything to do pretty much. I think his probably
even his main one
was probably taken on Cobra Khan in the Hordak mini comic, and he zaps the hell out of him and then takes on He-Man one-on-one in the Bashosaurus, so it's...
Well, think of it as his main mini comic, the one that he's on the cover of, Mantenna and the Menace of the Evil Horde. He didn't do anything. It's like, wow, you think, hey, this is his time to shine. It's like, he didn't do nothing. What? I think they should have just called it the Menace of the Evil Horde. I mean, the whole thing of Mantenna was irrelevant. He had no time to shine in that. And it was a shame because, in the cartoon, he got turned into a joke character. He was basically Hordak's little sucker that he would always drop down that trap door. He was always, having his eyes get tangled. But then along those same lines, when you look at it, Mantenna accomplished a lot compared to most other Horde members. The amount of different beams he has, from eye beams to stun rays to, things that, disrupt the legs, freeze rays. He had a ton of things that his eyes did, but then he actually accomplished stuff. He would actually, like, I think, heck, he even got He-Man wobbly legged. I mean, he took care of Bo,
Yeah.
I think, one time with stuff. He's done things, but I think because he's gotten picked on so much and thrown down that trap door and is the butt of Hordak's, I guess, anger, or, to always lash out at somebody, you overlook at all the stuff he does. Because then you think, like, let's say somebody for Catcher, for example, you think, wow, now Catcher, she's bad, boy. She's doing a lot of stuff. You take her seriously because maybe she's not getting joked as much. But then you think of her, somebody who turns into a panther, and you think, my God, that is the most ferocious, vicious thing. And of course, they're not going to show blood in a cartoon, but you're turned into a panther. You're going to do some stuff. What does she do? She jumps in a well. She jumps into a wall. She jumps into a Horde Trooper helmet. She's almost did nothing in her panther form, but she gets more respect than Mantenna, which drives me nuts because Mantenna done a lot. I feel so bad.
You touch on that too, which makes me think: had this cartoon come out 2 years earlier, every member of the Horde would have been portrayed a lot more. Even though, as a kid, when I first saw the She-Ra cartoon, I was blown away. Like, I didn't see the bumbling aspects. Like, I saw them all.
Slapstick crap, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it was like the early days of the internet when I remember one of those old Angel Fire websites. It was like kind of I think it's what they were called, but it was a fan site about She-Ra, and the person who built the website ranked all the evil Horde warriors and ranked Mantenna dead last because of the constant, that he was Hordak's whipping boy. He or she was not knocking the character, but just saying the poor character's constantly, thrown down the trap door, the trash chute in multiple episodes. But as a kid, I still watch it now. Like, I love the character. I love the way, man. And I love, how Grizzlor, Leech, they're not super serious. It would be great to have seen how they would have been portrayed in 1983, the way Beastman, Trapjaw, Triclops, and Merman and were all portrayed in that, like very serious villains.
Before the silliness came into everything, yeah.
Would have been awesome, but I still love Mantenna, and I love Lusheimer's voice. I can't do it. I'm gonna try to do it here.
That humming kind of like that vibrating.
The humming noise. It was extremely unique and creative and original. I mean, and he did Grizzlor and he did Leech, and I know he had to have some sort of vocal enhancement for a lot of these characters, but it was great. I loved how he looked. And it didn't seem like a drastic. And as a kid, when I had Mantenna, I wasn't aware that he had 4 legs. I thought that those were his actual feet, were these blue legs with 2 big toes. So when I see
really?
She-Ra, he's got 4 legs, and it was like, wow, that looks like, well, he's got 2 legs here. And as I got a little bit older, I'm like, oh, I get it now. But yeah. I thought it was a drastic change from toy to cartoon, but I'm like,
yeah, his toy had the cheapest 4 legs you'd ever see in history. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but it still look. I love the toy. I had the toy as a kid. I had all 4 of or I didn't have Modula, but I had Grizzlor, Leech, Mantenna, and Hordak, and I loved playing with Mantenna a lot. I loved the way his arms were posed, because if you put them up over his head, it kind of looked like he'd come down and punch somebody almost. And they weren't like, action features. Like, you could hold them up, like, they looked cool. They were posed really cool in the eyes, the veins in his eyes and all that stuff was nice little details. And I just, when you talk about like him being competent, like, he has a lot of competent moments in the show.
A lot.
Most people, just remember him being in Grizzlor got thrown down the chute.
Just not as much as Mantenna. Like I said, it's overshadowed by the silliness.
It's like the most tally marks on the wall for going down the
and that overshadows, definitely overshadows any competent thing he did, because all they remember is him getting knocked down the chute, coming out with a shower cap on, and just, getting that kind of treatment. Which, again, talk about the curse of things, not only with video games, but the curse of the MYP cartoon. we got a taste of the Horde, a taste of it. And I was like, oh God, I think every one of them, nothing would have been slapstick about this version of the
No,
Horde.
no.
And he looked wicked, and so did Grizzlor. I mean, just they all did. And Lee, I mean, just, oh, what a
Yeah,
shame we didn't get more.
Grizzlor and Grizzle looked very intelligent. Leech looked like the Hulk. and Mantenna looked about as gangly and repulsive as you could have
He was
made
scary. He was a scary looking sucker. Yeah, yeah. So we didn't. What did we just seen him get choked?
They would have kicked King Grayskull's ass. Each one of them by themselves would have done that. But unfortunately, we were given, the
old choke slams. Didn't they both get like a choke slam? King Grayskull jumps out a hole, choke slams Mantenna.
Oh yeah, they blow a hole up underneath him, and Mantenna they all jump down, fighting him, and he takes care of them, grabs a hold of Mantenna by the throat, and I'm like, you suck, King Grayskull.
It's
if I didn't have enough reasons to hate the guy enough. The guy dismantles these three beloved hordemen as if they're nothing. Like, no, they're not nothing. You guys just wrote a horrible, horrible. I mean, just. Oh,
I just wonder what they would have planned. I would have loved to hear his voice, what he would have sounded like, more of his powers. And
I wouldn't have minded it if one or some of them were mute.
Oh yeah, because I touched on that before about mutes. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, not all of them. I imagine Grizzler probably would have talked. I could have seen Leech or Mantenna being mutes. One of them, not both of them, maybe. But because when you see them, they're not talking at all. You hear some growling when they go into combat. But like when Hordak's watching over King Grayskull's home,
but you hate saying that.
They're standing there like just kind of like cocky, confident, and just awaiting orders. And the minute they see, Calyx steps up and kind of offers his point of view. They've been around long enough to know you don't do that with this guy, and they step away because this guy's going to be dismantled immediately. So it's so cool to establish that this is a tight clique up with the Horde. Like and for me as a kid, I never saw Modulok at all in toy form. It was only on the back of the mini comic, and I never saw him in the cartoon until I think 5th grade when I rented Gateway to Trouble from one of the local video stores. So to me, Mantenna, Leech, and Grizzler were the traditional Horde members, especially in He-Man, and then of course you watch Filmation and Catcher and Shadow Weaver, or a part of that group as well. So it was just so cool to see that character trait that I'm really getting psyched. I do this so much. I feel like I trail off so much, but
that's all right. That happens. But no, Mantenna, really quick. In MYP, I actually could see him speaking almost in a little sadistic, quiet, kind of weird, more evil way. But here's the reason why. I could see them making him more beyond using his eyes to do a lot of stuff. Maybe even doing more scouting ability to see further, maybe hear stuff. The reason I say this is, even though he didn't get time to shine in his mini comic, Mantenna and the Menace of the Evil Horde, there was one part in it right at the beginning. I'm sorry, not that. I'm sorry, it was the Treachery of Modulok, I believe. At the beginning of the Treachery of Modulok, where he hears or senses somebody coming, and that's when Modulok comes in to see Hordak and Mantenna's there also. He wasn't looking at Modulok. I think he said, I sense something coming. So I feel like he had a different ability beyond just for his eyes to see. Maybe he had some kind of extra sensory, maybe with his ears, a way of sensing danger. I could see him being more of a scout in MYP and a great fighter to then come back and be like,
that's essentially how he's depicted, toy line wise. I mean, it shows it right here on the card art. He is like the, scouting ahead, letting you know, hey, look, we got intruders coming up.
So you would need him to be speaking to tell Hordak of the imminent danger that's ahead. So he would probably be somebody to speak. I could see others being mute, but I could also see him just being a really nasty fighter because, like I said, locking people up with like his extra legs, kicking one, grabbing one, holding. Just I could see him being psychotic with the teeth that maybe he had. It's just
the Four Horsemen's redesign of him with the mouth, which they incorporated. I got him over here with the classics version. That was, to me, very and of course, this version, it's
you're looking at the video.
It's there, but
it's a different.
The two front teeth are more prominent, and actually, you're never. I'm gonna. You know what? I'm not ashamed of this.
I'm gonna say it. I know what you're gonna say. Don't even say it. I know what you're gonna say because it's what I always thought. His mouth is kind of like I thought of a vagina. Never mind. Just go ahead.
No, I wasn't going to say that at all.
I think you're gonna call him vagina mouth with like sharp teeth or
No.
something.
To this day, I thought that was a nose.
Oh, never mind. Okay. Well, I've heard. Never mind. I've heard it in groups, and they talked about the with teeth. Never mind. It might. It
Just
might.
because I any vaginas on here doesn't mean I'm looking. I mean, I am a guy, but I'm like, I did not see an open.
Well, there's a crazy horror. There's a crazy horror movie.
But I completely says no. As a kid into this, I thought that was supposed to be like a. And I don't examine the figures like a lot of fans do, and that is my fault for not realizing that. I took it as because in Filmation he's got a regular mouth, whereas here I thought he had a regular mouth with two long fangs sticking out with.
The reference that came out of it, if you ever seen, people have talked online, and it's a reference to a hold on. It's a reference to a movie called Teeth. That's where I've heard people say this in groups, and it just had me cracking up. Never mind.
Good grief! I can't believe I didn't know until just now.
Yeah. So that's different with the vintage action figure, but yes, the NYP version.
It looks really really cool. I could almost kind of sound like or sound like he would talk like Cobra Khan, almost kind of raspy.
I can see quiet. It's a quiet and sinister voice of the way he would speak.
And to see him with his four legs running around with Modulok and Multibot and MYP would have been, it would have just blown my brains out. It just would have.
What we didn't get.
We didn't get it, but they probably, like I said before, they probably would have been given the same treatment as the Snake Man were, where there a lot of hype and no substance because they don't know how to build up proper villains. So,
but either way, within that, you wouldn't have the corniness. You didn't even like.
It wouldn't have been corny, but it just, you just would have liked to have seen them portrayed as like, you can't, but they did say that the Horde was going to take over and that He-Man and the Heroic Warriors were going to be on the run, trying to avoid the Horde and kind of gather their forces. So if they actually followed through with that story arc, yes, okay, then they would have been portrayed competently and legitimate badasses as opposed to the Snake Men who look great in the first episode and then, John Cena comes in and and takes out King Hiss immediately. So
right. So Mantenna,
it would have been, but Mantenna, regardless of his portrayal of Filmation, I love Mantenna. I love how he looks. I love how he talks, and I could see why people don't like him at all because of the She-Ra cartoon was targeted towards girls, but could appease boys at the same time. And I loved it to death. I thought I loved. Doesn't mean that when I watch it now, I would love to see a more sinister take on all the horsemen, but I still love to death how the Horde's portrayed in She-Ra Filmation. I do, because there are some good moments, and I always think of Talent for Trouble, where Mantenna surprises Madame Raz, Orko, and Broom with Horde troopers, and freezes both Orko and Madame Raz right there on the spot.
Yeah, that's it.
And takes him prisoner, which brings He-Man to Eternia to get them back. But
he's done a lot.
Mantenna is successful and doesn't get thrown down in the chutes.
So, I mean, if we could probably even try to one day even count up which Horde member back then in the vintage, cartoon accomplished the most, I think Mantenna is going to be up there as being one who has done the most with his abilities. I mean, I know Leech has done some good times when he's, drained people's powers too, but Mantenna isn't as worthless as people say he is. I've never thought that. He's been the butt end of the jokes and being, like I said, the whipping boy for Hordak, but he's always been, like I said, one of my favorite Horde members from the cartoon because he's actually done stuff. He was cool to watch. And sure, he was fun to watch at times too, but he always did some stuff.
Yeah, I love him to death. I love his whole design, and it was a lot of joy when I would rent the She-Ra cartoons and to see Leech, Grizzlor, and Mantenna on screen. It was just a feast for my eyes. I loved it because I had those toys and it was so exciting to see them running around on screen and fighting and interacting with Hordak and She-Ra. So I'm running out of breath here. I love Mantenna. Is a kick-ass horseman. You can't have the Horde without Mantenna. All these characters, they're irreplaceable. Every single one of them. There's not an irreplaceable character here. No matter what. Yeah. One or two people may say randomly on social media or on some sort of forum, I'm sorry. Every He-Man character from the vintage toy line is irreplaceable. You cannot disregard any of them.
Yep. And in one way or another, fans, if you guys can either get them from eBay or try to research online, Mantenna, along with a lot of the Horde, he had so many appearances in the UK magazines. I know he was in some of the UK annuals also, but there are a ton of stories that he was in. I'm not saying he was the prominent one where it was always revolving around him, but if you want to see more Mantenna love and even Horde love, check out some of them UK magazines for Masters of the Universe. You can find them on eBay, and I'm sure that there's scans you can find online also. But he's had other appearances in other places. The UK really kept him going. They kept Masters alive. Well, obviously longer than here. So that's just ways for you to get more fix of Mantenna, the Horde, Masters of the Universe, whatever. But so yes, that was our little wrap up. That was our discussion on Mantenna. So I guess before we wrap it up now, Tyler, what do you have to say before you do your closings? I know you said you got an update on the mini comic.
Yes, yes. Carson contacted me today and sent me 3 complete pages. They haven't been colored yet, but they've been inked, and they look really, really good. One of them, and I would have shown it, but Doug's not here with us right now, so I didn't have any way. So Carson, when you hear this, Doug is not with us right now. He set us up to record, so I will advertise pictures that he said. Not all of it. I'm going to show probably 1 full page. It's not completely complete, but it's pretty much done. And then I might crop out and show an image I'm very proud of that he drew. It hasn't been colored yet, but it just looks so damn cool, like with the way it's finished. And I came really close. I'm like, I want to show, and I may even do it. I don't care what you say. I may go ahead and send you this one particular page that's done. It's not colored, it's inked though.
Don't you send it to me. I don't want any spoilers. I don't want no spoilers. I hate spoilers. Well, yeah, we'll see. You'll have to.
But there's one page though that does have a cameos for that. I'm like, okay, this is gonna look really good when it's colored though. But Carson is coloring it, inking it. He told me that he's hoping to have the whole thing done completely by the end of the week. Like everything should be done. He's planning on taking copies of it to Grayskull Con. So any German fan listeners or people who are going to that convention in Germany, he's aiming to take copies of this mini comic to that convention.
Oh, cool. When is? Do you know when that convention is in Germany?
I don't know right off. But when he said he was going to take some there, I assume it's coming up in the coming months. I assume.
Okay.
But I'll have to double check on that, so people will be able to get it there. And then once it's done, I'm sure he can probably start taking orders for it. I don't know. In the whatever you pay goes towards him. I'm getting nothing from this. I just wrote it, and I just hope people enjoy a retelling of the Leech story. And if this works out, I'd love to go back and redo Mantenna's story.
And to where actually we could have Mantenna. Yeah, exactly. Not just have
like
Mantenna.
That right there. That's what I like to retell it. And this does not make Leech the prominent villain. He has a good part in it. But it is a He-Man mini comic that is in the same vein of like the 80s mini comics, but he's featured more prominently and competently, in a story that makes sense, and helps set the Horde up. So
one scary mini comic. I know what's going on in here. This is just a whole lot of mess happening.
Yeah, so I'd like to, if this works out, Joe's got ideas too. We talked about this before a while back too. Joe's got ideas to do stories. I got many others I'd like to do, but it would be good to go back and redo some of these that just clearly were not taken care of at all. Mantenna's another one. So, but once this is over, I will at one point this week promote this episode with some pictures that he sent. I won't show all of it because I don't want to spoil it all. And he's worked hard on getting these. And I'm as anxious as I am to show this stuff. I'll show one particular page with a couple of images that people have seen already, but it's got more color to it. You see a little bit more also on there. And then I may take one of these pages and crop out and just show one picture, one of the panels, because it's just...
do some cropping, yeah. Cropping will be
I will do some cropping because in this one particular page I'm talking about, there is some fun little nods and images and stuff like that. It's not spoiler heavy. It's really not, but I like to be able to save as much as possible. So when people do check it out, that they still have a lot that hasn't been seen yet. But it's just really cool because when I came up with the idea for this panel, I told him what I was looking for, and even sent him a picture of it. And by God, if that's not what he did, he drew it, and it's. I was thinking he was going to tweak it a little bit more, make it a little bit more, kid friendly. But no, he went ahead and did exactly what I was shooting for, and with it being inked, it just looks really cool. It's a nice little touch to the Evil Horde.
All right, well that sounds cool, and
yeah,
well beyond that, if fans want to, you go ahead and read this comic to look at sometime. If you just want to laugh and wonder what in God's name is going on, especially like where the hell did Clawful and Jitsu come from in these panels? It's like I don't even know what's happening. Then you have the toy Zoar. Oh my! I don't even know what's going on with that comic.
Yeah,
wow.
It's like probably hired some guy that was bringing some intern. Mattel must have grabbed some intern and said here's
and put a pile of toys. Yes,
throw them in this story.
That's what I think. They just put a pile in there, like Drum's like, okay, and let's throw the guy with the claw in there. It's like I don't know how he got there or where he got there. And so, wow, this is it's fun to look at just for if you want your brain to explode. So, yeah, go ahead, do yourself a favor and read that go ahead, JSP, read it in the mini comic collection, and you go ahead and give us thoughts on this, whatever, on Facebook or next week. Yeah, let us know what you think. And hey, Eric Amon.
Like a big soft serve dump. Because that's what it is. It's a big, soft serve pile of crap,
Your head is just going to explode. So that's that. But, okay, well, that's it for this week's episode. So, again, appreciate everybody that was in the chat room. Hope you enjoyed it. And everybody else that's watching, hope you enjoyed it also. So, let me just say, go to fansofpower.com. Go to popculturenetwork.com, go to hemanworld.com, and on Facebook, go to Masters of the Universe He-Man and She-Ra Ultimate Fan Group. All great places, all great people. So until next time, have a powerful day.
This voyage is doomed.
This voyage is doomed. This voyage is... Oh, hey, no, see, you ain't getting me that time. You're trying to sucker me. I know my Friday the 13th Part 8. I know the guy on the ship. I got that. Don't you try to sucker me just because you got me on Part 3 with Shelley, huh? Okay.
Every week since then and before that as well. Yeah, I've suckered you all. Right?
Well, I mean, you definitely got me on all the others, but yeah, I figured you were thinking, you know what?
You got last week's with RoboCop. I'm like, people are jumping around. I was like, I got it was RoboCop. It was RoboCop.
Everybody in the chat room's getting it. Joe can't get it, but no, I had a feeling. I was wondering, is he going to try to Friday the 13th me? Is he going to try to do it? You did. So, but I got you. I finally got one.
But you know what? That was probably a little too easy. But then again, I thought the Shelley quote that you would have nailed that. So
yeah, you think. Well, hey, it took 12 weeks. I finally got one. So I guess Joe went out on a high note for this episode. So that's it.
Yeah, I'll come back with a harder one next time.
All right. Well, see you guys next week then.
Take care, guys.